пускаме го и него на екран. Аз само, че не знам. Сашо, я кажи нещо, чуваме ли?
Казвам, аз те чувам прекрасно. Ти мен?
Супер, чуваме се, да.
Чакай да звъна на Хари аз.
Не, ето го Харите тук.
Тук ли? Чакай, че аз не го виждам.
Да, той е тук зад мен нещо. Добре, аз съм пуснал между другото стрима, така че сме лайв. Този път съм се вързал на правилната връзка, за да може да се представим както трябва. Защото миналия път се оказа малко проблем с връзката. Общо взето, все пак да се представим. Аз съм Дани отново. Аз съм Iliya Idakiev.
Are we doing that in English or in Bulgarian? Just asking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we forgot the whole English part.
Yeah, I forgot that we have to speak in English. It's so early in the morning. I'm still drinking my coffee.
Yeah, same here. I got the fancy programmer mug.
So, last time I didn't connect on the right connection, so it was fun because the whole beginning of our episode was messed up. But this time we're going to introduce ourselves properly. So my name is Iliya Idakiev. I'm a co-founder of Hugrant, a company that we develop web applications. Mostly the technology that we use are Angular and Node.js with TypeScript. We really love JavaScript, and that's why this is one of the reasons that we actually decided to start recording these episodes and to share some knowledge. I'm also teaching in a lot of places, doing a lot of private courses and stuff. So I really love to just share my knowledge and just to play around with stuff. So yeah, that's why me and my other colleagues started commit.js, and hopefully you guys are going to like it and maybe subscribe to our channel. We're trying to reach 100 viewers because we want to have like a unique YouTube URL, and if we have less, we can't do it. But anyways, I mean, I hope that you actually subscribe just because you find this content useful. And I would let the other guys present themselves.
Hi, my name is Aleksander. I've been working with Iliya and Harry for some time now. We're all JavaScript enthusiasts. We're trying to be engaged with the community. Me and Iliya also help in a course at university. So we teach students there. We have a JavaScript course, and we are really into contributing to the community and sharing our knowledge and making it so a lot of people can have easy access to knowledge and an easier way to get started with JavaScript, because it's a really powerful tool and it's good to know.
It's fun. Yeah. That's why we like JavaScript. Just
actually,
it's fun. Yeah,
that's the most important part.
And I'm Harry, full name Hristyan, but it doesn't matter why I'm introducing myself as Harry. Whatever, I'm also a JavaScript enthusiast. I like to mess around with latest and greatest stuff, like touch a little bit of this npm package or not npm packaging. Like there's a lot to play around in the JavaScript world. Also, I'm like a JS enthusiast in the form that I like all open source stuff that's happening in the community, and I also like to be part of this community because I think it's great, like helping each other and like helping each other to get better and stuff. So pretty much that's about me, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, so let's just overview really quickly what we did last time. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we're going to see it hopefully now. Okay, so this is our application we created last time. Pretty much what we did is we created a web component. We saw most of the functionalities of custom elements and just web components in general. We created this tag function called HTML. We saw that whenever we use the tag functions, we actually, for the first arguments, we get all the static parts in this thing that we're tagging. For example, not this one where we're creating our template. Oh yeah, it's right here. So we are tagging this string, and this function actually allows us to get all the static parts, meaning the parts that don't change, for example, like this one, and all the dynamic parts, which are marked with the dollar and the brackets, like here. And this is really cool because we know which parts are dynamic, and we can dynamically change these things. So yeah. But this function is really simple. I mean, we're just like concatenating everything, and we're doing the updates manually, so it's not very useful. It's kind of hard to create templates and update them, and it's not very efficient. I mean, it is pretty efficient because we're actually using like this update method that is basically updating the factory, and here we are iterating all over the updates and using the query selector to query the individual parts, but it's not so nice. I mean, today we are going to talk about this small library called lit.html, and lit.html is using the same syntax, so it has this like HTML tag function, and it allows us to create these templates the same way, but it's more efficient on re-rendering the templates just because it knows where, as I said, the static and the dynamic parts are, and where we have dynamic parts, it actually inserts these comment tags, and we have control over this comment tag. So whenever, for example, the value for this comment tag changes, it knows that it needs to get re-rendered, this particular part, not the whole thing. So it's really useful. And yeah, we just created this counter. We didn't have any like server to serve it. So today I'm thinking to integrate Webpack into our project, just the Webpack development server. And since it's good to have some library that, for example, imports all of the different things that we use into a single bundle, I think that Webpack is one of the most famous and mostly used. So yeah. That's why I'm thinking to integrate it to our project. But yeah, pretty much this is what we did last time. If you haven't watched the video, please go and watch it on our channel. And yeah, let's start with today's app. So let me just clear my console. Here I have, as you see, like an empty project, and I'm just going to start the application from the beginning. So inside the terminal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me just enter the directory. It's called commit.js. It's going to be pushed on GitHub. By the way, I created a GitHub account as well, where you can find all the resources. Let me just open a new window. If you go to GitHub, commit.js, commit1, this is going to be the library, I mean, the code from the first commit, and all the other commits are going to be here as separate repositories. So yeah, if you want to just check on the code and play around, you can do that here. So let's start. I'm going to close this because I'm not going to need it, and I'm just going to continue with this. Let me just reorder my windows. So first thing, as I said, I'm going to go into the console, and I'm just going to say npm init -y. Okay, so we have our package JSON. By the way, I'm going to use yarn. I'm not going to use npm. I prefer yarn for package managing. So what we have to do now is we have to install Webpack. So let's say yarn add Webpack. And we also want to install Webpack CLI. I think it was like this, CLI. And I'm going to install them as dev dependencies because I don't need them on production. We're not going to have production, but anyways. Okay, and while we're waiting, I'm quickly going to come and just create my Webpack config. JSON. Or JS, not JSON, sorry.
Yeah.
JS, and here what I'm going to do is say I'm going to include the path module from Node.js, just quickly require it like that. And I have to do something like module exports this object. Oh, another thing, I will have to also install the Webpack dev server. I don't remember how it was. Let me see, Webpack dev server. Okay, something like that, maybe. Okay, yeah. Let me just copy it and quickly add it as well. Here add webpack dev server -d. Hopefully the spaces won't matter and it will be installed correctly. Let me just quickly see. Yeah, everything is dev dependencies. So here, what we have to do is create an entry point. Actually, probably we will have to create a source directory where we're going to store our JavaScript files. So let's here say console.log test. And here inside this, we're going to say entry. And we're going to say path.resolve. And we're going to say, I'm going to resolve from the current directory. I want to get the source file from the source folder, the index.js file. And I'm going to also say output. And the output is going to be our path. I think it was path, right? Path, then path.resolve. And from the directory, we want to go into the dist. So next thing, the file name. File name should be something like main bundle.js. So we're not going to cover all of the Webpack features now, but in the future episodes, when we are creating and extending our application, pretty much we are going to be adding more features. So today we're going to just use the most necessary thing. So we can just use the ECMAScript 6 imports and exports inside our source files. And yeah, so we don't have to just import manually everything inside the HTML. So here I'm going to say dev server, and in dev server I'm going to say that the content base is going to be path.join, and it's going to be actually the current directory. The public folder, public path should be dist, and I don't know, maybe compress. True. And also port, I don't know, 900 or something, 9000. Okay. Okay, I think this is okay. Okay, let's see if everything is going to work correctly. We have this thing, and let's see if we can build it properly. So there are two ways of actually running Webpack. If you go to Node modules and you go to the bin directory, you're going to see all the executables that you have installed. So we have Webpack here. So one way is to go to the Node.js directory and just execute it from the bin, which is something like this. So Node.js.bin .webpack, which is not very pleasant if you have to write it every day. So, I mean, probably you have to write it more than once every day. So there is a really cool tool called mphx, and it pretty much searches for the binaries inside your bin inside the Node.js. So this is really cool. And even if it's not there, I think it can install it automatically if you're using something. So mphx is something worth checking out. And another way that we can actually do it here inside the package.json, inside the scripts, we're not going to have tests yet. So we can do something like build, or maybe serve, let's say serve. And I'm going to say I want to run the Webpack dev server or something. I think it was like that. Did I miss something? Okay, it's gone. So let's try. If I run yarn serve, let's see if it works like that. Okay, yeah, we have our project. It's served on localhost 9000. We have the main bundle. The only problem now is that we don't have an index HTML that we have to show inside the browser. So let me just create really quickly an index HTML. Let's say HTML5, and usually you can use this with another plugin for Webpack, so it automatically inserts the compiled bundles into the HTML. But for now, I just want to keep it simple, so I'm just going to insert my scripts manually, and I'm just going to say I want to get the main.bundle.js. and maybe just do like that. And let's see if we open the browser and go to this port, if we're going to see something. Probably we're not going to see anything, but at least in the console, hopefully we're going to see something. Nope, not found, main bundle. Probably because I'm missing the disks, probably. Let's see. Yep, test working. Okay, perfect. So yeah, by the way, let me just zoom in. I don't clear my console on reload. This is because it's sometimes for me it's very useful to be able to see what was the output from before. So don't just keep it in mind. Okay, so let's start. So we said that we're going to use. Let's first create our web component. So let's say class. Root or something like uproot, let's say, extends HTML element like that. So we're also going to say constructor, super, then this dot attach shadow DOM, mode post. And then what we have to do, maybe just have connected callback. And let's say console.log connected. Let's say custom elements define. Then we have to say hg root, and then we're going to say uproot, something like that, or it can be uproot. So now what we have to do only is go inside here and just create this thing called hg root, like that. And by the way, we can move this here and say something like async and defer. So it's not there. I mean, it used to be a flag, but now browsers support this attribute, so it should be working. And we see connected. Inside the body, we also see our custom component. So this is the first part. Now let's create our template using lit.html and see how we can do that. So what we have to do is, probably it's going to be a better idea not to kill this and just open another terminal and say something like yarn at lit.html. So we mentioned lit.html the previous time, and probably it's going to be a good idea to mention it once again. So what is lit.html? It's a very, very small library. I think it's about 3K. And pretty much it allows you to generate templates using the template tag functions, and the template literals. And it has this functionality like render. And basically the render gets the document body or the shadow root of your web component. And yeah, it gets those things and just creates the template inside the shadow root or your body. And the thing is that it has a bunch of features that we are not able to do just out of the box with web components. For example, I think that last time when we were talking about web components, I mentioned that whenever you want to put an attribute on a component, it can be only a string. We cannot put a more complex object. So if we want, for example, to send an array to our web component, we have to create a selector, the web component, and then just attach to the instance. And this is the way that we have to do it, and it's a little bit not very, I don't know, I don't feel happy about it. Hopefully in the future web components, the standard will include something with better functionality. But for now, that's the way we can do it. Guys, any comments on what we just did, or is everything fine?
Probably a quick recap what you did, because I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people that are seeing the second episode as their first, maybe just like 2 sentences, what you did, what is that connected stuff, and I mean like just like 2 or 3 sentences, because I think that we're expecting the people to had watched the first episode, and that's not the case probably. I don't know.
So yeah, okay, let's quickly comment on what this thing has. So if you have written any React code or just Angular or just any front end, since we are doing components-based software, we have to be notified when certain things happen of our components. For example, the connected callback is just like a callback that it's called whenever our web component is constructed inside the HTML, and this is a perfect way just to know that it's time, for example, to load some data from the server and to just start a counter if we're doing like a clock or something. And we also have, for example, the disconnected callback that gets called whenever the component gets removed from the DOM, and this is the perfect place where we actually can clear some stuff. So pretty much like really quickly it's this, but if you really haven't watched the previous episode, I suggest that you go and watch it, but it's not very complicated. If you haven't, you can just steal and watch, and I think that you'll get the feeling of how things work. Okay, so let's continue. We have our shadow DOM. Let's say that this is going to be our root, and here inside the root, we're going to create our first template using lit.html. So I'm going to say import from lit.html. And I'm going to use the HTML function. So usually what you have to do, I mean, how do you create the templates? You just say HTML, you use this thing, we already saw it. We create, for example, a div or something. Let's do it like that, div. And here inside the div, we can, for example, say something like 4 + 4. And this thing is going to be calculated. I mean, it's a JavaScript expression. It's going to get calculated, and it's going to get presented. So let's say root template. And this root template, we're going to use it here. And I'm also going to use the render function from lit.html. And I'm going to say render. Oops. Render. I'm going to provide the template, which is going to be this thing, and I'm going to provide the container, which is going to be the root element. And let's see what's going to happen. Hopefully, we're going to see our web component. Let's go into the browser, reload, and yeah, we already actually see it because the Webpack dev server automatically reloads the page whenever the text changes. So yeah, we see 8, just because 4 + 4 is 8. But this is not very nice. I mean, it's perfect, but it's not very nice because we usually, when we are creating, when we are rendering, we want to get things from our context, right, from the uproot component instead of just calculating stuff like that. And what we can do is, of course, create a factory function that will accept, for example, a context, and it will just return this thing. So here, instead of just passing the function like that, I'm just going to call it, and I'm going to provide some context that we want. For example, let's say that here on this object, we're going to have, for example, this dot counter. Let's create the example from last time. It's going to be really quick. And here we're just going to say counter like that. So let's see if it's going to work. No, it won't work because here I have to do something like either provide this or just create a new object with the counter. But hopefully, let's see, counter is not defined. Oh, I have to say context.counter. Okay, sorry. It's 0. Perfect. Now let's see how we can actually increment this counter. So I'm going to quickly create a setter and a getter because whenever I, for example, click a button, I want this counter to get changed. So it's going to increase the value, but whenever I increase the value, I have to call the render function. And this is something that I want to be doing automatically whenever I'm increasing the counter, no matter where. I don't want to type manually. So I'm going to say set counter. This is going to be a setter. I'm going to get the value. And I'm going to say this dot underscore counter value. And here I'm going to say if this dot update, just call it this dot update. So I'm going to also create the update function now.
This counter is missing the underline in the constructor.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I want to set it, so I mean, it's going to be like that. This dot update is going to be a function, and inside the function, we're going to do this. So whenever I set this, I'm going to come inside here, so it will automatically get re-rendered, right? So that is what I want to do. Yeah, that's why I did it. Okay, so we have the update function. Everything seems to be fine, even though I'm not sure if this is going to be correct, just because let's do an arrow function, just to be sure. Okay, we're setting the counter, we're calling the update, and of course we want to use get counter. And we're just going to provide return this dot underscore counter, something like that. And let's see if it's working. Yep, it's working fine. Okay, so now let's create our handler so we can update the counter. I'm going to say button. And here inside the button, let's put something like increment. And let's connect our first handler. So handlers inside lit.html, you connect them with the add symbol. And you can say add click. I want something to happen. So I can just say I want this function from the context. So context dot increment handler. And here I have to create the increment handler. So there's like some issues with the changing the context and stuff like that. So probably the best idea is to just create it here and just say dot increment handler equals this function. That's going to be an arrow function. We don't care about the event, but of course you can also get the event here. Let's see it. I'm just going to log it. And here, what we have to do is dot counter plus plus, and we should automatically see it get re-rendered. Okay, we have the increment, and we see the counter incrementing, and we also see our mouse event, which means that this handler can get the event, which is cool. And as you see, like this is very quick. You can develop components super quickly instead of just doing everything by yourselves. And I also mentioned this is really optimized because it only changes the things that have changed. So if you open the HTML, you're going to only see that this value gets updated. So it's very efficient.
Yeah, that's because we're using the tag functions, and we can show. Can we show a quick demo, a quick example of what exactly a tag function is? Because that's really essential in the way lit.html works, and why exactly it's so fast.
The previous time we actually did it, even in the beginning, I show what we created the last time, and I explained it.
Okay. So
I think you missed that part.
No,
but anyways,
yeah, sorry.
Tag functions, as I said, they just get the strings, the static parts of the string as first argument, and the other arguments are just the dynamic parts. And yeah, I mean, it's not only the tag functions. I mean, it's how lit.html just handles the dynamic parts. So I mean, yeah, it's not only the tag functions, but tag functions are really cool. Okay, so we did this. Everything looks fine. What was I forgot?
Interrupt you for a second. Can you check live comments, because I think that someone asked something related to the tag functions, just to verify.
Let me just check. So I'm getting this right. HTML from part 1 is polymer function, while this one is from lit.html. Let me just see what it is. So usually, I mean, no. For the previous time, from part 1, the HTML tag function was a function that I created by myself. And I only what I did is I only connected the strings with the dynamic parts here. The tag function HTML is from lit.html. So lit.html is actually a part of Polymer. I mean, it's developed by the team there. And pretty much they use it for rendering. It also is used by lit element, a really cool library that you can just, instead of extending HTML element, you can just extend lit element. It has a really cool render method. It looks so like React. I mean, it's just basically the same way. So yeah, I hope that this answers the question. I'm not sure if I understand it correctly, but if I haven't answered it, just please post it again. Yeah. Guys, do you have anything to comment on that? I think this was the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I agree with.
So, what are we going to do next? Maybe talk. Yeah, Alexander.
I have a question. I think so. We're passing the context, and if the passing the context to the root template, but when calling the actual render function, I think we also have an option to pass in the event context, and in the actual template use this.
So
as a third argument on the render method, the third argument you can pass extra options.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So you mean that whenever we're calling the render, we can pass the third argument?
Yeah, in the third argument.
Okay, what does it say? Optional, render option, entire render tree. So you mean that if we say this, then we don't have to...
It's an object and it has a property event context. And in the event context, you can pass in your this.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. Something new. Perfect. So you mean that I don't have to, for example, pass the context of the render function?
This should work.
So let's see, like that. Okay, and we should do this, right?
Yeah, but now I'll just update the render method because you're still calling it like a function. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. It's not working. Counter is not defined, so not sure. I think this is event context. This means that whenever we dispatch event, that this is going to be probably the thing.
Yeah, I think that there was something special there. It's
okay. Let's see like if we type something like here. I really like the search because it just redirects you to Google. Let's say render options to see what kind of options we have. Okay, options. So we have event context, template factory to use. It's an advanced option, creates template elements, typically caching templates, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so maybe the template factory is something that it's good to, I don't know. We have also, I'm not sure if this is going to work properly. So I think that let's just put it back. We have to experiment, but this is, I think whenever we pass this, usually whenever let's see what's going to be the this of the function whenever we have a handler.
In the actual documentation, it says that event context is only applies when you're using. So just I was looking at the video.
Okay.
Just a second. To actual events when you're attaching.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. So let's create this as a function instead of using like an arrow function, which means that the context won't get attached to the function, which means that this actually, whenever I provide it to the handler, it will be the button itself. This is going to be usually the default behavior. So let's see. So let's open the browser. Okay, let's open probably. Okay, we see the mouse event. Let me just put a click debugger there to see what this is going to be. As you see, it didn't increment just because this is going to be the button itself.
Yeah.
This is usually how lit.html works. So whenever you attach a handler, it automatically attaches this to the button, so to the elements that you attach the handler to. So probably with this option that Aleksander mentioned, we can just change this context, hopefully, and we can say event context, let's say this, and whenever we do this, hopefully, whenever I click the button, we have
work properly.
Yeah, so perfect. This is really cool. So you don't have to actually create this increment handler like this. This means that you can actually move it up here, and you don't have to care about if it's like you don't have to care if it's like an arrow function or not. And yeah, perfect. That's really cool. I like that. The only thing that I don't like is that we have to pass this thing, but as I said, we have to check the factory function. I haven't used it with the options. It's very interesting what factory function means, because actually we have the factory function here, and what we have to create, maybe let's see if we do this. Let's do that maybe. I just cannot imagine how to do this. Creates template elements with it's okay. This is a little bit more complicated. This uses internal lit.html structure. So this is like if you want to do something a little bit more complicated. So let's see actually what lit.html does. So whenever we ever go here, as you see, it's written in TypeScript, so it's really cool. And they have a lot of comments. So whenever you want to read the source code, it's really easy. So whenever we're calling the HTML, it actually calls this new template result. And what this factory function does is, instead of calling this thing, it basically replaces this factory function with our own function. This means that we can actually do certain things before before creating a template, just more modifications and stuff. So it's easier for us to how should I say, just reuse logic instead of just creating it everywhere. So yeah, this is really cool. I'm just wondering if here we can actually provide this, but I don't see, I mean, it should be like that. I mean, we cannot provide the context in another way. So I think this is okay. Okay, so what should we do next? We saw the render, we saw the HTML function. Maybe we should create, a directive, or let's see how we can actually iterate over and just create.
I think we can show that the lit HTML gives us a lot of power in terms of showing and hiding certain parts and handling if cases and such, and also showing lists. And maybe we can just show a quick example of that, because it's really powerful, because we can have full control over the data we're showing.
So let's extend our example, because I'm really sick of this counter. Let's create something like a to-do app that we can just put to-dos, and we can iterate and just list them. So here I'm going to create an input type text, and here on the input I can just say, I don't know, what can we say here? Maybe yep, I don't know. And we're going to be with the function that is going to be context dot key up handler. Okay, and here inside this function, we have to do something like input key up handler. We have to get the event. From the event, we're going to get the target. Actually, I'm going to use the structuring target. And actually, I'm just going to get the value as well. So this is going to be the value of the target. And let's see if it's going to be working. Let's say log, like that. And just log the value. Let me just comment this. We don't need it for now. I'm also going to remove this, or just comment it, because it's not going to be needed. And the counter, we don't need it as well. So yeah, the only thing that will not happen now is that we have to just go update like that. I mean, we have to call it because I removed this thing actually. So why it was rendered before is because we put this value to 0, and here we call the update if it exists. So usually the best case scenario is to have the update as well here. But if we do this, then we're going to have 2 updates. So there is like a way that we can actually handle this. So I'm just going to quickly handle it. We don't want to call the update function twice. So what we can do is, for example, put like, for example, let's say a variable. Let's say let's update scheduled, and say false. And here I'm going to say if update scheduled is true, then I just want to return. If not, I want to say update scheduled equals true, and then I'm going to say promise dot resolve. Then I'm going to say then. So this here, I'm just creating a macro task. I think macro task was the smaller, micro task was the bigger. Yeah, and I'm just going to say if I have more update calls for the current stack, I just want to skip them, because I know that I'm going to have update on the next stack. And here I just have to say false, like that. And no matter how many updates I have, I'm just going to have 1. So let's see if it's going to work. I'm just going to put a few here, and I'm just going to say console.log updated, and see how many updates we're going to get. And as you see, it's only 1. So that's cool. So perfect. Let's continue with our example. So what we wanted to actually see is this is working. As you see, it's working okay. So now we have the value. We can actually put it on our object. So we can say this dot to do input or to do title value. I like to be more expressive just because I'm used to writing on big projects and we have a lot of things. So I think that being expressive is something that everybody should be, especially when we're working on large projects. But for example, since
naming is essential.
Yeah. So probably to do is a little bit too much. So let's say title input value. Okay, so we have the title input value. Then we have to create our handler, which is going to be add to do handler. And here, what I will do is just maybe have like an array somewhere an array. Let's say that we're going to have to do's here. This dot to do's equals an array. And here I'm going to say this dot to do's dot equals this to do's dot concat. And I'm going to say this dot let's see, it's going to be a title. This dot title input value. Okay, probably not actually the best way to do it, but anyways, I think for now it's going to be okay. And
we should clear the value after that.
Yeah, we have to clear the value. That's why I'm saying that it's not the best way, because when we have to clear the value, I'm just going to actually do it like this. So I'm going to say this title value equals empty string, and here this title value I'm just going to provide it to the context. So here I can just say value equals something, right? So this something will be our from the context the input key, the input value. So this thing. But in order to do that, I actually have to use, I think it was a question mark, right? Or
no, if it's a question mark, if it's a Boolean attribute.
Oh yeah, what was?
So if it's just value, I think the way you've done it now should work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Undefined, perfect. Undefined is my perfect value for this. Let me just set up a default value here. This dot equals empty string, and it's working. Where's our button though? I can't see it. There's no button. There's no button. I wonder why I can't see it, but there's just no button. Okay, the button, let's say add to do, and here we're going to say click. Come on, where is the click? And just give it from the context was it add to do handler, something like that. And let's see what's going to happen. Okay, this didn't get cleared up, sadly. So now nothing is happening. It should be working. Let's say debugger. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm not re-rendering. Yeah, I'm not re-rendering. This is something that is very annoying, and that's why I left this thing actually. So I'm just going to quickly do something like here. I'm going to say. So later on, instead of just creating setter and getter for each of the properties that we're going to have, I'm actually going to create a decorator that I can automatically do this for us. And it's going to be much better. So let's see. I think that now it should be fine. The only problem is that I have to rename this thing from counter to this. And hopefully everything is going to start working. Okay, we come here, we update the value, and it should disappear. It's not disappearing. That's strange. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, debugger. We set the value. Get it. Okay. To-dos. Let's see if we have our to-dos. Yeah, the to-dos are okay. And here, whenever I say this, I have to go to here, update the value, and just click update. Then we go to the update function. Okay. And here, let's see what's happening. We call updated. Then we pass this. Then go inside. And it should get re-rendered with the correct value. And why it's not working is the question. I think that the problem is that it's not updating the value of the input. So here we see that the value is nothing. And this is something that I was worried about. I think that we should put something here before the value. Maybe, let's say,
a dot may work.
I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, okay. Perfect. So everything's working fine. We are updating the value. Now we have to render our to-dos. So the easiest way to actually render our to-dos is, for example, say we're going to have a list, an ordered list. Of course, I need this, and I'm going to say something like very reactive. I'm going to say context.todos.map, and I'm going to say for this to do, I want to create HTML that's going to be like li, and inside here I'm going to say to do.title. And let's see if it's going to work, and it's working perfectly.
We can just have a brief explanation as to why exactly this didn't work before we added the dot. Because
okay, you can add the explanation if you want.
The thing is that if we don't add the dot, we're actually updating the actual attributes of the element. And as we saw, the actual attribute of the input was correct. The value attribute was an empty string, but that doesn't exactly update the actual button. When you add the dot, then we're actually we're controlling actual properties of the input as an element. So while adding the dot, when we update the context, it just updates the whole view, the whole thing, and not just the attribute.
Yeah, I think the problem here is something like what you're saying. With the dot, we actually say that this should be calculated dynamically here, and whenever like we miss the dot, it only gets the first value that we provided. So it cannot say, okay, you need to update this. So pretty much this creates a directive for this element, and whenever this value changes, it also updates this attribute. And without the dot, we just say, okay, I want to bind the value, but only for the first value of this. So because the first value is actually an empty string, it just gets the empty string. As you saw in the beginning, was undefined. And even if I change it, it cannot understand when it has to update it. So that's why we have to annotate it with this dot in front. I'm not sure if annotated is correct to say it here, but yeah, we have to add a dot. So this way, lit HTML can know, okay, I have to update this value, and I have to run, for example, the getter every time I re-render. So this getter is going to run every time I re-render, and that's why it's working now. So yeah, it's a good explanation. I mean, you can actually.
Sorry? Sure, I think that it's just that in one case you're referencing an attribute, in the other case you're referencing an actual property, and that's the main difference between the two, between having and not having the dot.
But the properties, whenever you change the property, it will change here as well. I mean, usually, it's not. I mean, it's one-to-one connection with the value. And if you're not sure that it's like that, I think you can look here inside the directives. You have somewhere. Let's just see.
Take a look and
I think
see where the truth lies. So.
No, there's like in the lit HTML, you have this processor. Inside the processor, we have to look default template processor. This is what we have to be looking at. Let's see where it is. Okay, we have this thing here, default template processor. And here somewhere, yeah, there it is. So for example, here you have handle attribute expression. And here you say, I have to, like, if I have this prefix, pretty much I have to create this committer. This is like the thing that actually commits the changes to the input. So if we don't have this in front, it cannot create this committer that will actually be pushing.
Just to stop you there, if you look a bit down, if we don't have a prefix, it still creates a committer. But the difference is that it's an attribute committer and a property committer.
Let's see where it is.
On the just there.
Okay, attribute committer. Okay, that's strange.
I think the difference is between, I'm not really sure, but I'm not sure, my knowledge here isn't that stable, but the difference is that once a property, another is an attribute. And for some reason, if it's just an attribute, it doesn't update when you change it.
Yeah, maybe.
Identical
Okay,
value.
we can easily check that. I mean, this is going to be really strange if it's like that. But let's say this thing. Maybe you're correct. I think that you actually are correct. So let's say something like document. Oh, I cannot get the. It's inside the
It's
shadow
closed.
root, so it's going to be a little bit hard. But let's see. Let's do something like, I don't know. Let's go inside our code, and here I'm just going to say like this. Can I get the root here? Probably not, but I can get it here. Or I can just do, let's see what mode open will do actually, so we're familiar. I'm just going to open the component so I can actually access the DOM. And here I can do something like documents.get element by ID, and I can say hg root, const root, something like that. And here I can actually do something like root dot hg root, right? Not tag name, by tag name, elements by tag name. Okay,
elements.
Come on. Constant, not very good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
really use constants in the JS console, in the actual inspector, because of stuff like this.
So here we have our element. There it is, the hg root. Here I can say something like shadow root, and you see the document fragment. This is the thing that we actually have here, the shadow DOM, and I can say query selector, and I can say I want to get the input, and it's going to return the input. So I'm going to say let e equals input, and here I'm going to say e dot set attribute. This is the problem. So if we say value, it's going to 1, 1, 2, 3, and yeah, whenever we set the value, as you see, it doesn't. Hopefully here it's going to be like this in the HTML. Yeah, we see it, but we have to say probably I dot value equals 1, 2, 3 equals this. Yeah, so this is the problem. Okay, I agree, totally agree with you. Yeah, sounds logical, but I really missed this part because I was at some point looking at the source code of lit.html, and I actually saw that they're using these different types of committers, but I didn't see that they're returning the committer here.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty good explanation. I think this is something that hopefully most of you, it's going to be good for you to know. If you haven't, I mean, the DOM API is really strange. I mean, I really like. This is why we have libraries, for example, like React and Angular and stuff like that. So we don't have to deal with this low-level strangeness of the DOM. I mean, the DOM API is really bad. But anyways, it's getting better with web components. So yeah, hopefully instead of using lit.html at a certain point, this is going to be included in the standard, and we can just use it without any external libraries. Okay, so let's return to our example.
One last thing, because so that we can finish actually the whole attribute and express such stuff. If we add a question mark, we can handle Boolean values. For instance, if you want to have to hide something and show or hide a given attribute, if we add the question mark in front of the given attribute, what lit.html will do, if the value is true, it will attach the actual attribute, and if it's false, it will completely remove it. Because, for instance, if you have a disabled field with disabled attribute of an input, if this stays on the actual input, even if it's equals false or an empty string, it will still disable the input. And in order for it not to disable the input, we have to remove the whole thing altogether. And what the lit.html does when you add the question mark is, if the value is false, it completely removes that from the actual element.
Yeah, sure. We can do that probably. I mean, we can, for example, say that whenever a to-do is completed, we can just use the question mark and remove it, right? I mean,
yeah, something like that.
Okay,
or we can disable the filters. Yeah.
I mean, there are like a lot of things that we have to play around, and I see that the time is kind of moving forward. So
sorry for the
yeah, no, it's not a problem. Yeah. I mean, it's always a good idea to be playing around. So I just wanted to quickly show what we currently have. These are actually the dynamic parts, as you see. Like this is what lit.html creates this a start and an end comment, and this is how it understands this is a dynamic part. And for example, this one here as well. And whenever we are changing something, as you see, it's just constantly just updating this stuff. And as you see, the other things are not getting re-rendered just because it knows what has to be re-rendered. It only adds this element instead of re-rendering everything. So it's really, really efficient. This is really cool. So, okay, Alexander, what do you want me to write is the question. Since you want to be hiding stuff and showing, probably we have to create a handler for each individual big element. Say toggle, let's say to do toggle handler. And here we're just going to have a function, and we have to get the to-do. So probably, so how are we going to do this? We have to get the to-do here, definitely. So what we'll probably want to do here is just say add click, and say something like, I want to have this arrow function that just passes the to-do to the context dot toggle, like that, and just pass the to-do, right? So we know which one we want to toggle. And here we can just say to-do dot completed equals the opposite, right? I mean, not the best way, but still, I mean, I really don't like when I'm so used to like creating new instances of everything just for a simple change. Whenever I do this, I feel like I'm doing something very dirty here. But okay, I think this is going to be fine. Just to see if it's working, let's just render the completed as well here. Oh, one other thing though. I mean, here, since we are not creating a new instance, we have to explicitly say update, just because it won't automatically call this function here. And yeah, this is not very nice, but let's just say update like that. Okay. And let's see, we're creating our to-dos, false, 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 true, false, true, false, everything's working, nice. So what we want to do here is, for example, say that whenever something is completed, we want to hide it from the DOM, right, Alexander? Or yeah. So what we have to do is, as you said, come here and just put the question mark.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure what exactly we can, if we can hide the actual like that. But for instance, my point was, if we want to, for instance, disable the input, the input depends on if the disabled property is there or not. And I'm not sure if we can, this can actually help us in this case, because here we're just trying to show and hide the element.
I thought that you have like a way to just hide it with the question mark. I mean,
yeah, if you can hide it with some HTML property, yeah, but I don't think we can.
I can hide it like that. I mean, if to-do dot completed, if not completed, then just render this. Otherwise, just I mean, this is like the simplest way to just do it, right?
For them, we can probably change the elements, input elements, and play with the disable property of the inputs. So do you get me what I mean? Just for a demo, like instead of free tags, we use the input tag with the value of the to-do title, and depending on that, if the to-do is completed or not, we can edit the input field or whatever, something like that, just to see it working.
Or we can just add the checkbox, which is enable template, enable to do adding and disable to do adding. And
no, I think that the best way to do it is just say whenever we don't have a value here, we want to disable the
button. Yeah. That's.
So, I mean, this is what I would do, right?
Yeah.
So let's say question mark disabled, right?
Yeah.
Equals, and say context. Oh, not this one here. And say, okay, we want it to be disabled if this is empty, right? So let's see. If we go here, it's disabled. Whenever we type something, it changes. So yeah, this is really cool. Nice, yeah. Okay, so what else to do? I suggest that, I mean, we looked at most of the things, but they're really cool stuff like directives. Directives are really cool as well. For example, directives are just functions that you call like that, and you use the directive to create like this dynamic part. What the directive gives you is this part where you actually put this dynamic input. As I mentioned in like the beginning, whenever you have this thing, lit.html puts this comment tag, and this comment tag is this part, and you can dynamically control the value, meaning that you can just change it and stuff like that. And what actually we can do probably is, for example, say that we can have like a directive, and whenever the value of the to-do is completed, just put something on it or something like that. I mean, just maybe cross it or
something
I don't know.
Like that.
Yeah, let's try. I mean, let's experiment. I haven't done something like that, so let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to import the directive like that, and let's say completed, to do completed directive. So usually you can call this function with an initial argument. The initial argument should. I'm wondering how to do it, because whenever we call the function, we want the exact to do. So maybe if we say that we're going to receive the to do here, and depending on the to do, we can, for example, change something inside the part. Let's see what's going to actually happen. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to use it inside the template. Let's say here somewhere. Let me just style this a little bit because it's getting a little bit too annoying. Okay, maybe like this is a little bit better. I'm not sure. Probably if I put this on the bottom, I don't know, like this. Okay, that's
Why is the formatting so strange?
Yeah, it really reminds me of React. I really don't like this thing that I have to write stuff like that. But usually you can even you don't have to map and stuff. You have like a directive that you can use. It's called iterate, and just give it what you want to iterate. And this is something that we also can, for example, say that we want to just put inside our component.
That's a good show.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we can do, but these are very similar things that every React developer has to deal with. So I'm just going to leave it for like that. Yeah. Okay. So what we have to do is, let's say we're going to have this, and here inside this, I'm going to use this directive, and I'm going to pass it to do. So let's see what's going to happen. To the completed directive, we get the to do here. We're going to say something like, okay. Probably if we go, we're going to see a bunch of hellos whenever we enter the to do. This is just because the directive is running. And if we put a breakpoint somewhere here, we're actually going to see what happens. Yeah, oops. Let me refresh. So whenever there is like a change, whenever I click this, pretty much I get the part. This is the common part. As you see, we have undefined. And we have other options. I think, I mean, it really depends on where you actually put the directive on. So, for example, here I put it inside the template, as you see, and I don't have a value. But for example, if I come here and move this thing and say, okay, it's going to be on my element, and there's going to be an attribute, something like data not completed, I'm just actually going to have a different value, which is going to be really cool. I think that I'm going to get the object, the li, and then I can apply a style to it or something. So let's see. I'm going to type something. I'm going to say add to do. Oops, but I missed breakpoints just because I changed it. Okay. Okay. So we have here the part. We have the committer. We have from the committer, we have actually the li element, which is something that we need. And hopefully, yeah, here we can actually access the attributes and just put a style or something, which is really cool. So let's say, okay, if the to-do is completed, so if to-do not completed, then we want to say part dot. First, let's do something like part set value. this thing will actually put on the data completed the value that the currently we want. So let's say part dot to do dot completed. And then we can just say something like if or dot pref value equals to do dot not to do part dot value. It's going to be the previous value, and I'm just going to say if or maybe current value. So if the current value is different than the to do completed, then I want to do something. Otherwise, I don't want to do any operations just because I don't want to have anything executing every time I just type a symbol or something. So if they're different, I'm going to say that I'm going to put this thing here, and then I'm going to say that if the to do is completed, then I want to add an attribute to the element. So I think the element was from the committer, right? So we have to say part.committer.element. So part.committer.element. Let's say element, so it's more clear. And we can just say element dot, and then just say something like, even though we can bind it, I mean, but anyways, add class, or how is it, class list?
The class list append,
push or something completed. Let's see if it's going to work. So we have this thing, we add it to do. Okay, here we're going to set the value. To do is not completed, so we're not going to set any classes. And let's see what we have here. We have the data completed to false. This is because we said set value. And usually we can write a selector with only this thing. I mean, you don't need to add an extra class, right? And even if we wanted to do something, we can just even bind to the attribute class property directly instead of manipulating it the way that we are currently. But let's see what's going to happen if I click here. We're going to set this, and since the to-do is completed, we're going to get a committer. Okay, let's see what happened here. Okay.
We lost some.
Now it's going to be false, so it won't happen. Let's click it again. Let's do it again.
What's the
okay,
committer?
So parts.
I think it's committer.l.
Double T. committer. Okay, like that, then click, then come here, we get the part, the element from the committer, and we have class list. Hopefully, there's no push. Okay, let's see, element.classList dot add. Okay, I mean, of course it's add. I mean,
yeah, why not?
What was I thinking? You know, I mean, the DOM API is just amazing. Just we really love it. Okay, and now we click here, we say, okay, add class, and let's see, we have our class completed. Perfect. Yeah. So this is like a really simple way of just creating a directive. I think the main idea of directive is actually to be controlling this value here, not to be adding extra things to the element itself. But I mean, it's a pretty good example of the things that you can actually do. You have a total control of everything, and it's really cool. So this directive, I'm actually going to just keep it really simple because I really don't like that I'm manipulating the object like this, just because it looks very hacky. If I'm going to be doing this, I'll probably just do it with lit HTML. Probably, let's do something like that.
Are we going to continue about the directives? Because I think it's a good feature about the directives is the way that you handle them when they're asynchronous and how you project the data then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. We're going to continue. I just want to rewrite. No problem. I'm just wondering if we can do something like this. So let's say class. We're going to have this directive, and instead of just passing the value here, we can just set value to the element itself. So I'm just going to say this: if to do dot completed, then part dot set value to completed. else and return, and else we just remove it, something like that. Let's see. I think it should work. I mean, this is the much better way to do it, at least in my opinion. So yep. And here, let's see. I click it, completed, non-completed. Perfect.
Great.
So this is a really cool directive. Yeah. So yeah, let's see how we can actually handle asynchronous operations. Actually, there is like a directive like this for the classes that you can actually use out of the box. Let me just see where are all the directives. They were listed somewhere, I think. Asynchronous directives. I think templates. I wonder where all the directives that we have are. Okay, let's just search for them. Lit HTML. Okay. Built-in directives, template syntax. Okay, it's not template syntax, directives, built-in directives. Okay, so we actually do, I think we have for the style, yeah, class map. Class map is something really cool. You basically give it the classes, and depending on the values, it can just put the classes or not. This is something that Angular has, and it's a really cool feature. We use it a lot, so you can have it out of the box here as well. And the other really cool thing is this that Aleksander mentioned, which is called async append, async replace, and let me see, what was it?
I was referring to something else, but I'll bring it up a bit later.
Which one? Just say it. Maybe
when you have in an actual directive, if you have an asynchronous operation, setting the value when you call it, it won't get committed, because when the function gets called, it in the end of the function life cycle, it appends the value, which is the last value you have set. But if you have an asynchronous operation,
understand what you mean.
Value, yeah.
So what Aleksander is saying, that if you set here, for example, or set timeout, and basically if you say, okay, I want to update it after 5, okay, like that, and you put this, it won't get updated. And yeah, right. And you have to say part.commit changes. Commit. Okay. Let's see if console.log. Must change like that. Let's see. Okay. We click it. We look at the elements. Where is it? Yeah, we don't have the class, even though must change logged. So what we have to do is just explicitly commit this change. We have to say part.commit, that, and it will actually show after some time. So yeah. I have to click it. I forgot to click it. That's why.
5 seconds is a long time.
There it is. Yeah. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. I mean, if you have an asynchronous operation, you must commit the change. Otherwise, the directive cannot understand what is happening. And yeah, this is
an interesting way you can use this. For instance, if you have you're loading some text asynchronously from somewhere. If in the beginning of the function you just set the value to, for instance, loading or some loading template text, it will just present that initially, and then when your timeout, when your asynchronous operation completes and you commit the change, it will update to the proper value. So you can have a basic way of handling loaders.
Yeah. This is the until directive, actually. With until directive, you can say until this content is loaded, you actually just prevent this spinner. So this is a really cool directive, and you can actually view the source code here. It's not very complicated. It's actually what Aleksander is saying. Let's just go to the... By the way, we really love reading source code. So towards the episode, we're going to be looking into a lot of GitHub repositories. So here, let's see the until directive. As you see, a lot of comments, so it's very nice. So they're using like some kind of a state where they're getting the parts, and somewhere here they're setting the value. Let's see where they're committing the change though. There it is. So this is like the promise. When the promise gets resolved, you get the data and just the value and commit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
for that you see just the initial value, the loading.
Yeah, for this, yeah, you just see the loading, so it's really cool.
And while we were talking about each one's favorite directive from lit HTML, maybe mine is like the repeat directive.
Guys, Iliya,
Yeah.
can you mute your microphone, because I'm hearing it. Yeah, I'm hearing a bit strange.
Let me just probably mute myself then. I mean, probably it's because of this. Okay,
Yeah,
Harry?
I think so.
All right, so as we're on a streak about everyone's favorite directive, mine is like the repeat directive that's going from the lit HTML, which is kind of like replacing the nodes. Let's say, for example, as we have like an array of items of list elements, and if we, for example, reorder them, the lit HTML right now is supposed to re-render each element, but if we use the repeat directive, it will actually not re-render the thing, but reorder them, which is like kind of nice. I mean, like, at least sounds interesting. So we can browse
really
Yeah, that's really important actually, because as you saw that whenever we are adding elements, it doesn't re-render the whole thing just because it knows the previous ones. But if you start reordering stuff, you have to do more complicated things to just know what changed and stuff. So I'm just going to quickly open the repeat directive, as Harry mentioned. And here actually you're going to see the reconciliation algorithm that they're using. There it is. And it's very detailed. I mean, you can follow through to see they're actually, I think it's used in Vue. Yeah, there it is. And what they're doing is just this algorithm to just understand what changed and what haven't, and just to reorder just to keep the things that haven't changed and to update everything else. So yeah.
Do as little as possible in terms of re-rendering.
Sorry?
Do as little as possible in terms of re-rendering.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of nice things here. The directives are really cool. Okay, one other thing that this week actually we had like a Angular Sofia meetup, and there was this person that we talked to, and he was explaining that they're using lit HTML and stuff like that. So one other thing that is really cool, we can actually create a directive that, for example, connects to a placeholder, and even without calling any render, we can just change the value, which is, I think, very cool. So if you want, we can create something similar, so we can see how it's going to work. Another directive, do you guys want? Or
yeah?
Okay, I'm going to do it very, very React. So let's say use state equals, and here I'm going to have a function. The function will take a default value, and it's going to return, let's say, I'm going to keep the node. This is going to be the node that actually is going to be returned from the actual directive, and I'm going to say I'm going to have this set value function. In the set value function, I'm going to get the value, and this actually is going to say node dot set value to the value val, and then set node dot commit. Commit like that. Okay, and here I'm going to return, as like the React hooks are doing, an array. The first is going to be the set value function. This is going to be this thing, or actually maybe the opposite way. I think in React you first return the value and then the set value handler. I kind of forgot, but anyways. And here I'm going to say directive. This is going to be from the lit HTML. I'm going to say initial value, something like that, and then we're going to have an n here, which is going to be the actual node, and here I'm going to say if node, then I just want to return, because I already have the node, and I don't have to like do other things.
Just a quick typo, the name of the variable is n and not node.
Yeah, but this is the node from above here.
Oh, I'm right. Sorry guys, I haven't worked on it properly, sorry.
No problem, no problem. So yeah, we're going to put this and then say set value, which is going to be this thing from the top, and just say I'm going to set the initial value. This is only for the initial thing, and I think pretty much we are done. So how can we use this set state? I mean, it's not like exactly like set state, but we're going to see how we can use it. So here inside component, I can do something like const. What is it? Value. And no, let's say text or number and set number. This is the order, right? Yeah. And I'm going to say use state, and I'm going to say the initial value is going to be 1,000. Okay. And here, whenever I add the to-do or something else, maybe let's create another handler. Or the set number is a handler itself, so I think it's going to be off. It's going to be fine. So what we have to do is provide it in the context. So let's say here I'm going to just spread this and provide the two individual things that I created, the number and the set number. And here inside the template, what I can do is create, for example, like a placeholder, basically a div or something that will contain the value, a div like that. Here I'm going to say number, and I'm going to also put a button. And here I'm going to say add click, just use the set number or maybe something like that. Oops, forgot this. Set number, and I'm going to say number +1. Maybe let's see if it's going to work. I'm not very sure. It's not going to. I mean, it's going to work for once, but it won't update the value every time. So yeah, I mean, probably here it's going to be a better idea to somehow be able to update the number. Yeah, but let's see what's going to happen. Okay. Oops, something went wrong. Number is not defined. Number.
Yeah, context on number.
Oh, context. Okay. Yeah. Number and context. Not. Okay. Oops, not exactly what I want to do. Maybe I messed up. What are we? Oh, okay, I messed up the inputs. So here first is the set number and then is the value. Okay, and my button is really cool as well. As you see, it doesn't have any text. Let's just put something so I can see it change. Okay, change here is undefined. I think that I'm not doing something correctly. That's why it's undefined. I messed up something because I'm spreading the this. And probably it's not a good idea. Probably it's going to be better if I just say counter or what was it? Value. This is the. Anyways, let's see if this is working. The other things are not very important for now. Come on. Okay. I think that the spread is not working just because we have a setter and a getter, and that's why it's complaining for this. But anyways, if I click change, oh, why don't we actually see the value that we have? That's interesting. We should have, I should set an initial value here as well. But we do have the initial value. Why is it not working? Okay, we're not using this value actually. That's strange. Initial value, just because I probably have to call it like this. It should be working, but why it's not working? Let's see. So we have 1,000, okay. Then we're calling the directive. We're not going inside though. Do we actually need to do this? Is the question. Let's say like that. Let's say like that. Okay, we have this. Then still not being called, which is very strange. Where am I rendering it? Here, right? Oh wait, it's not number. Is it number?
It's number, I think.
Set number and number, yeah. Why is it not rendering is the question. It should be rendering since I'm giving this directive. Oh wait, I forgot to provide the set number function here. Right, set value function.
Yeah.
See, it's not this. Set number is not defined. Set number is the set value. Okay.
We have another comment. Just
Okay.
a look.
I'll just check it out a little bit later. I just want to fix this because I'm not getting the properties correctly again. What is the comment?
It's fascinating how lit HTML brought the concepts from all the three major front-end frameworks together.
Why is it like that yet still? I mean, I really don't understand. I think I'm missing up something. I'm just going to quickly comment a little bit later about this. Let's see. I just want to make it work. It really gets me annoyed that it's not working. It says val this thing. So I'm actually presenting the number, and the number is my set value, which is the strange thing. But here I'm giving the directive. The directive is something that the thing that I want to actually present. So the directive is the okay, yeah.
I can't do the other way around.
Yeah.
I think set number. Just isn't it supposed to be set number? I think that's what you're exporting.
Set. It doesn't. Yeah. Set number.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. And here I still get this thing const d equals something, which is something that we shouldn't actually be able to see. I think I'm just making a mistake and returning something that I don't have to, which is something strange. I think I think I know what the problem is. I actually have to call this thing. Now, since I'm doing it correctly, I have to call this thing like that. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, okay, now it's working. And change, and when the change, it doesn't work again. Let's see why, just because the value is probably not what we want it to be. Anyways, I think we're getting close. Let's see, okay, we have the node, we have the value. Whenever I click change, the value, here I'm going to context number. What I actually need, I cannot change it like that, yeah. I cannot change it because this is actually my directive, right?
Yeah.
I somehow need to like get the value. But the idea here is that we can dynamically change this value that is there. And I'm not usually going to change like this from my template. Usually, if you're using, for example, something like Directives and with subject and stuff like that, this is really cool because you don't have to even re-render the component. You can just set the individual parts like that. So it's something really cool. But yeah, the problem is here that I'm just wanting to use it like that. So.
But the main idea is getting through. That's the important part.
Yeah. I think that this is really cool. Something that is very useful, especially when you're using Directives. Something that we might include into our project a little bit later. But anyways, I see that the time is passing, so let's see what the comment was. Yeah, so pretty much it's really cool that lit HTML brought. It didn't just bring all the concepts. It's just like using JavaScript, and I think it was expired by another library. I forgot what was the name of it. But anyways, yeah, lit HTML is really cool. So guys, I don't know. I talked a lot. Aleksander as well. Harry, you want to say something?
I mean, like you said everything about the HTML. I'm not sure what can I add to it, but probably we can make some picks and tell the guys what we're gonna do next time. Like, what do you think about that?
Sure. So next time, I don't know what we're going to do next time. Probably we're going to extend this example. We have a bunch of ideas. So the main idea was to create a library similar to Angular. So what we can do is probably integrate TypeScript into our project. So we can start using decorators, and we can, for example, create custom decorators for this thing that we have for the setter and getter, and just I don't know, something like that. I mean, I think that is going to be really interesting. Maybe we can actually create an episode and talk about TypeScript and just implement TypeScript with our application, since the HTML is written in TypeScript. So I think that it will be nice. I mean, after all, it will be very useful to have the auto completion, since you see that currently TypeScript is trying to understand what's happening, but everything is with any. And I had problems, for example, adding a class and stuff like that. But whenever we integrate TypeScript, it's going to be much better, and probably we can do things even faster without any mistakes. So this is an idea, but we're going to figure it out, I guess, after this episode, what we're going to do. And guys, are we going to do it next Saturday again, or what do you think?
Let me just check in the calendar. We're going to check the calendar. Harry, if you have any comments right now, still.
I'm up for it. Like, I don't have any plans for next week, and probably it's a good idea if you guys that are watching us right now have like some great idea. There's some great mystery about some, I don't know, JS library or concept. You can like share it in the comments, and we might do an episode about that. So feel free to that's join channel. So yeah.
And also, if somebody wants to like be speaking on an episode and just presenting stuff, and for us to be like watching and communicating, if it's interesting enough for us, maybe just send us like a title or some description of what you want to present, and maybe we can do an episode together. Why not? And it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, Alexander, how's the calendar?
The calendar is looking good, and I think it's okay for us. I don't have plans for then, and I think it's fine by me to have another quick episode then.
Okay, so next Saturday we're going to have another episode, half an hour, 190 minutes, integrating TypeScript into our project and just extending our application. So in the future, what we're going to do is create a router, so we can actually create a single page application. Of course, everything is going to be with web components. We're going to create lazy loading, like lazy loading of components and stuff like that. So we will try to create a whole application that we actually do every day. I mean, we work on complex applications, and for now, the application that we created is really simple, and we really want to bring more complexity into it. And we're going to see how we can create this. So yeah.
The mega to-do application.
yeah. So any picks? I actually don't have. I don't think that I have picks. But if you guys have, you can share.
Well, I'm not sure if we have anything to add, and something that I can say as a pick. But as Harry mentioned, as in terms of the directives, I think the repeat one is really cool because it works well, and I'd pick it. If I had to pick have a pick for a directive.
Well, Alexander, you've been like bragging about this game Karpov or something. You could have picked that. I mean, like it sounds fun.
Sorry?
Escape from Karpov, the game that you're playing right now. I mean, like, great pick. Anyways, I have like two. One came up when I saw the Webpack thing. I mean, like if you are not that confident in Webpack, we can check out Parser, which is pretty robust, straightforward. I mean, like it's like very powerful and simple bundler. And the other pick that I want to mention is like there's one website called API-stylebook.com, and if you're in the process of building like some major API, like you're in the process of architecting the stuff, definitely check it out, because there's like style guides from Microsoft, Google, Red Hat, and pretty much everyone that's big, and that works at scale, and you might find something interesting there. So those are my picks.
Okay, so in terms of that, yesterday I found an interesting tool came to my attention. It's called Carbon, and you can use it if I sent it in the chat. We have a chat in the stream, because I'm not sure how that really works. So
you should send it to the global chat, not the private one.
Yeah, my idea was for you to open it to show it.
Okay. I thought that you want to share it with everybody
and
else.
it's a quick snippet tool to allow you, if you want to take a snippet of code and use it in, for instance, in a presentation or something like that. it's a tool that allows you to do that easily.
And they even have like a progressive web app. See,
Yeah.
like a plus sign, you can just add it to your desktop. This is really cool.
And you have you have a lot of control in terms of fonts and such. So it's nice.
Yeah, one other idea is to even create this like project with created like a progressive web app and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is
we can have an episode for that.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe we can try server-side rendering with web components as well. At a certain like point, I mean, it's a commit 1000. I mean, like it's taking a lot of time to just create everything.
Yeah, it may not be just a simple one commit.
So yeah, I guess. What about adding another section into our episodes? Do you want like add a section where like something new that we learned this week or something? Do you guys have anything that you can remember that you learned this week that is interesting? Nothing. You haven't learned anything.
Well, an interesting part is that the library that you wrote and we're using in one of our projects, that async render library, we had a lot of interesting cases there, and we can take a look at that. Yeah.
Well, this is like I think mostly it's a pick. I mean, it's not something that you learn, but yes, if somebody is interested in, you can just definitely check this library that I've created. I'll be having an episode on Angular Air about that, so you can watch me there. It's going to be on 8th January or something. But anyways, I'm going to share this like when the time comes. So okay, well, I'm not. I learned one thing actually. But it's with TypeScript, so I cannot present it right now because we don't have like TypeScript installed to our project. So maybe next time I'll just show it to you. There's like whenever you're defining like a property on the class, if you don't put it a default value and you want it like to be there, and you also have it inside the constructor, you put this like exclamation mark on the back, saying that, okay, I want this to have this value, but I want it to be undefined or something like that. Otherwise, if you have the strict mode included to the tsconfig, basically it will be very angry at you. Anyways, okay, guys. Well, I think that this is our episode for today. We're a little bit longer, but yeah, it was a pleasure coding in front of you. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments of the video. And yeah, by the way, the previous video has almost 200 views, so that's really cool. Hopefully, this one will be the same. So, okay, guys. Well, bye bye for now, and until next Saturday.
Bye.